In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can use Claude for marketing so that you can stop worrying about being replaced by AI and start using it to out-convert, out-research, and crush your competitors. Hi everybody, I'm Ben Salka. I quit an $80,000 a year corporate job a little over a year ago now in my 20s to build my marketing and artificial intelligence business. I make these videos to help you learn more, become more valuable, and get more out of your life. We'll keep it simple and step by step. I'm going to show you exactly how you can configure your settings on Claude across Claude Chat and Claude Cowork, and then some multi-million-dollar use cases that you can use for better results with your marketing. You're going to want to pay attention to this one. So if you want to learn AI and marketing and the intersection between the two to become more valuable and grow your business, please consider subscribing. I'd be super grateful. It makes my newly wedded wife think that this YouTube thing is finally paying off. So let's get after it. A necessary prerequisite to this video is having a Claude subscription, obviously. So definitely go purchase a Claude subscription. And then I want you to download the desktop app so that we can use Claude Cowork properly. I'll drop the link to this in the description below so that you can go quickly download the desktop app and then come back to this video and follow along and get the most value out of it. All right, jumping into Claude here, very, very exciting. I'm gonna go through settings, and these are some necessary ones that I want you to have in place to get the most out of this for advertising. Gonna go through this really quickly because this isn't the core component of this video, but it'll put you in a better spot output wise, which is really important. So down here in settings, you're going to click your name in the bottom left. Clicking on settings here, the first thing that I want you to do is set your function. So what best describes your work? I would just throw marketing in here. If you do something else, just go through these and choose what makes most sense for you. But since this is a marketing video, I would imagine that that's the function you're going to put in here. For personal preferences, I do have some formatting rules that I like Claude to use. I make sure that they don't use the dreaded M dashes, emojis, etc., and some other things. Those are just my personal settings. You don't have to use those, and it doesn't really apply to marketing, but it will help with outputs. Jumping down here to capabilities, this is a really important section here. Some things that I want you to have in place for capabilities. Search and reference chats should always be on. Generating memory from chat history should always be on because context is one of the most important things. And if you're already using ChatGPT for your marketing, or if you're using Gemini for your marketing efforts, I don't recommend like completely shutting those down unless it's a financial situation for you. I personally use Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude for different use cases. But what you can do is use this prompt right here and copy this by clicking that start import button, and Claude is going to give you a prompt that you can use and put into those other LLMs to extract all the context and information that you had there siloed so that you can bring it over to Claude and get the exact same results, if not better, moving forward. And then you can paste those memory details there. For tool access, have load tools when needed, always turned on. For visuals are very important for marketing, whether it's generating a landing page or a PDF in chat that you can look at. Turn on artifacts, turn on AI-powered artifacts, and inline visualizations. Those are really important. And having on code execution and file creation is important. If you want Claude to create a PDF, a marketing PDF, like a marketing research report, or a presentation that you want to present to your clients or internally to other marketing leadership or business leadership, you want to have that turned on. Under the desktop app subcategory here under general, there's a couple of other things that I want you to have turned on here. I want you to have keep computer awake turned on. This is going to become really important when we start scheduling marketing related tasks so that those tasks can continue to run while you're catching Z's, while you're in dreamland, which is an amazing thing. Very, very grateful for that feature. And what we can do under Cowork is put in global instructions that are going to apply to all Claude Cowork sessions. So in the description below, I linked a master prompt generator prompt that I use that's going to create a prompt for you that's going to give Claude Cowork all the context that it needs on your specific situation and what you're trying to accomplish with Cowork. And then when you're done, you can just add those in here. But you can see I have my master prompt in here, which talks about who I am, what I do. And this prompt is literally like thousands and thousands and thousands of words. So I recommend going through that questionnaire, using the prompt in the description below to input this in here. You'll get way better results for you personally, and it'll help with your marketing related tasks. Next thing that's insanely important for marketing is having connectors set up. So inside of Claude, you can connect with other tools so that Claude can reference other apps when you're going through a project or going through a chat or building a workflow. Some ones that I have in here are Asana, Canva, Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, Slack is really important, and some other ones here as well. Whatever marketing tools that you use, I recommend going to this connectors page and seeing if they have it in there. Like if you use HubSpot for your CRM, I know there's a connector for that. Not everything's in here, but all the ones that are relevant to your function connect with Claude. All right, this is really the last thing that I want you to do, but inside of Cowork, so right now I've been in chat. You can adjust settings for Cowork and chat when you're inside of here, but in here, something that I want you to do is click on customize. Under customize, what you can do is connect apps to Cowork here as well, so have them connected to both chat and Cowork. But something else that I love is you can browse plugins, and Anthropic already has a marketing related plugin, which will have prompts and skills and other connectors that you can use for marketing specific functions, so that you don't have to go through and set up a bunch of these things manually. You'll already be able to use skills, which is outside the scope of this video, but skills are essentially things that you can call on within Claude that's going to reference a specific workflow that you've gone through in the past, so that you don't have to rebuild that entire workflow again in a new chat. And really the last thing I want you to be cognizant of from a marketing perspective is which model you're using, because token usage is a real thing, and trust me, I've blown over my usage multiple times and had to upgrade my subscription because I was using Opus too much. So there's a few models: Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku. I use Sonnet 95% of the time. The only time I would really use Opus 4.7, which takes a ton of token usage, like I said, which will deplete your usage much quicker, is if I'm building like a PDF or having it parse a very, very large amount of data, or multiple different references and resources inside of the same chat, or if I wanted to create a presentation for me on my behalf, like develop a PowerPoint. I definitely use Opus for that. And I don't typically ever use Haiku because I'm doing this for business and marketing related stuff. So those are a few settings and breakdowns, models, and when to use them for marketing related tasks that are going to be really important when you're using Claude or Claude Cowork for advertising related initiatives. Both Claude Cowork and Claude Chat have similar capabilities, but one of the reasons I recommend using Claude Cowork for marketing related tasks is because it has more persistent memory, which means you can bombard a lot of chats, schedule tasks, do other things without having to compact those chats, which will happen when you're using just general Claude Chat. Plus you can schedule tasks, which I think is really valuable. So most of this video is going to be done within Cowork, but I want to let you know that you can do a lot of these things within chat if you want to create projects there and then import them over to Cowork. But one thing I do want to show you how to do first and foremost is how to create a Cowork project. So when you're inside of Cowork, you're obviously not going to have all these chats and different things that I do unless you've already been using it for a long time. So to create a project, you're just going to click under projects. What I would do is just click create new project. What you can do then is just like use an existing folder and then maybe just like set this up on your desktop just initially. And I'm going to name it something like just marketing for the sake of this. But if you are doing this for multiple different functions and you want to keep things segmented, like you have multiple different clients, I would recommend creating different folders for each one of those individual clients and then creating .md files, which are context files, which I'll show you how to create in this video for them. But just for the sake of this video, I'm just going to create a general marketing folder to show you how to do that. So just going to open that folder. You can put instructions in here as well as files. Instructions are how you want Claude to work in this project, as well as files for reference. These are things I definitely recommend doing, but I'm not going to do it in this video just to save a little bit of time. So you can create this. I want to show you how to create .md files like I just talked about. This is really important for context so that Claude knows who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, what the purpose of this project is. So what I want you to do is use a prompt that I'm going to paste in here. I have this one here, but basically what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to create these context files. So here's the prompt I'm going to use. I'd like to create a set of MD files in this folder to give you lasting context about me, my business, and how I work. Interview me to learn what you need, asking one question at a time, yada, yada, yada. So basically it's going to get as much information about me as possible and then create files that Claude can understand on the back end, so that with that persistent memory and being able to call on these tools and reference these files, it's going to be able to take that information to give me a better output that's more relevant to my specific situation and what I'm trying to accomplish. So I'm just going to send that in there. I'm not going to go through this entire process, but this is what you do to build that .md file. And then when I go through and answer all these questions on behalf of Claude, I'm going to say build a .md file for that specifically and store it in that folder, and Claude will automatically do that because Claude Cowork can work across your desktop and has permissions inside of the folders that you created for this specific project, so it can edit those files on an ongoing basis. So as you're going, you can have it update those MD files as you continue to work more and more in this project as well. So the first question it asked me, what kind of tasks or problems do you find yourself wishing you had better help with, etc. You'll essentially just go through all of these questions and go about it that way, and you can use the same prompt that I outlined here. All right, let's get into these marketing use cases. Enough of the mumbo jumbo. Hopefully that went quickly as possible, but it is important to have that stuff in place before you move forward. So I have a client project here that I created for one of our e-commerce clients called Howler Bike Park. I've already built MD files for this, created a brand brief so that it has all the context that it needs, things that I recommend doing before you really start working inside of a project. The first thing I want to do for marketing use cases is doing marketing research by crawling the web. So we recently started working with this e-commerce business. They sell bike parts and accessories. They shared over with us some of their competitors, and here's a prompt that I could use to monitor their competitors with market research with an AI agent. All right, I got a prompt that I pasted in here. What I'm going to have this do is do competitive research on behalf of me for this company for one of their top competitors. All right, thank you Cowork for putting together this report for me. Basically what it did was put a full report, and I can view this in chat because of some of those settings that I set up, which is why this is important, so I can do a little bit of a preview. But it went through a whole bunch of stuff. This is a very comprehensive report with all information that I might need or other marketers on my team might need to understand this competitor a little bit better to help with positioning. Let's take this a step further. What I want to do is set up a scheduled task in Claude Cowork for it to do this every single week, and then create an Asana task for me to review the report. So what I'm going to do, I have another prompt that I'm going to paste in here. All right, I'm going to paste in another prompt here. So since Cowork went and did this task for me, I wanted to do it for me every single week and then assign a task for me in Asana to be able to read through this. And maybe I could have it send me a Slack message, or maybe draft up an email to be sent to me or to the client. Those are some other things that make those connectors so valuable. But I'm going to have this create an Asana task for me so that I can review this on a weekly basis. So you can see what it's doing is it's creating a scheduled task automatically. So I don't even need to click over here to scheduled and create this task. It can create the task for me and bake a prompt into it based on that conversation that we just had. And the prompt is obviously going to be good because we already went through that workflow inside of this conversation with Cowork. So we're going to allow that to schedule the task. It created the task already to be sent at 8 a.m. on Mondays. So now what I can do is go inside of the schedule tab and test this, do a test run. Since it's not Monday at 8 a.m. right now, this isn't going to automatically run. And it'll actually remind you of this, and it does this every single time for me, but saying hit run now to give it a test. So let's go over here and do that. Something that I think is really cool is when you're looking at your scheduled tasks, let's say this one's running right now, I can look at the chat history for the tasks that I've run and be able to see the exact thought process that it went through and everything that it came up with inside of chat, so that if there was an issue, I could have a conversation in chat and say, hey, can we update this about the instructions for this scheduled task or for the prompt for this scheduled task to fix this, and this issue that were uncovered by looking at this chat. All right, so Claude wants to use get me from Asana, so we're going to allow that for all scheduled runs. And this is part of the reason why it has you do a test run before you actually go ahead and schedule out the task, because if it needs to use tools, it's going to ask for permission. And if this is running autonomously, you won't be able to give it permission. So run it as a test first so that you can then give it permission to access your connectors. All right, I'm just going to drag this over. Here's what Claude outputted for me. This is inside of our Asana. So it basically did this research, created a task for me inside of the Asana project for this client, and put the entire report in here. It's formatted a little bit weirdly because it's an AI output, and I could probably adjust the prompt instructions, but it gives me all of that information inside of this Asana task, so I can read through this, share this with my team, potentially like add additional contributors to it, copy the link and send that over to team members so they can review it as well, mark it as complete. And this is going to be done on a regular workflow. And since we have the settings set up on the back end so that Claude works while we sleep, this is going to be run every single Monday, whether we're on our computer or not. So for all my performance marketers or paid advertisers out there, Google ads, Meta ads, Amazon ads, etc., a lot of these platforms have native download features where you can download a CSV or an Excel file to your computer. In terms of native connectors, you can use a tool like Supermetrics, which has a connector in Claude, but that is another paid subscription. It can't access your data on like Meta or Google if you have it set up properly. There is no native integration right now with Google ads or Meta ads, but downloading CSVs is always a really effective way to do this. So inside of this same project, what I'm going to do, I already have a file on my desktop for this use case, which is just like some random metrics here. I have a prompt that I'm going to put in here as well, which is, here's a 30-day Google Ads performance report at the campaign level, analyze the data, give me a clear summary, etc., etc. So I'm giving it a detailed prompt to use based on that CSV that I'm sharing. Whenever you put your prompt in, you'll always want that to correlate with the actual data that you're sharing and give as much context about it as possible and what you're looking to extract from it. So I'm going to drop that in there. I'm going to use Sonnet for this because it's a pretty simple metrics sheet there. There's not a ton of data inside of there, and we're going to see what it comes back with. So I could pull a CSV for ad creative performance inside of Meta, or copy performance or asset performance inside of Google Ads. A lot of different data, types of data that I could pull product reports from Google Ads and input them into Claude. You could pull things from Google Merchant Center and put them into Claude to help you better organize it. So all these things that are really important for performance marketing. I'm going to show you a couple other use cases that are really impactful for performance marketers as well. All right, sweet. So this is the report that it's putting together for me. It's giving me this week by week breakdown, which is what I asked for in the prompt, giving me an idea of how ROAS has been. You can see ROAS has actually been trending in a positive direction directionally while increasing spend, which is awesome. Love to see that. that. It's going to give me a breakdown of each campaign, how things have been trending for each one that's actively live right now, which is really helpful for me. So something I can do with this data now is have Claude build me a PDF that I could then share with the client, like an on-brand PDF. And if you're doing this marketing task internally, you could build a PDF or a document that you could share internally, which is a really professional report that'll look good. People will love it. People will be impressed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this prompt in here, which is put this into a client-facing PDF report using these colors. Once that's done generating it, I'm going to show you what the output was. And it's also worth noting that normally I would use Opus for a task like this. Right now I'm pushing the limits of Sonnet a little bit. One thing that's important to note is once you start a conversation with one model, you can't change models mid-conversation. So if you want to eventually use a chat to build a PDF, I'd recommend starting with Opus from the outset. The only thing with this is I started with Sonnet because I wasn't planning on building a PDF, but for the sake of this video, I think this is a perfect example to show you something that Claude can build using those building capabilities. All right, Claude finished putting together our report here. Let's take a look at it. So it'll give you a preview here in chat, which I think is awesome. So here's the performance report. I had it use the client's font and color cadence here. So you can see the report that it put together, giving week over week performance, campaign performance, a little bit of a breakdown, some notes on each campaign, but you can see like it does still make mistakes. So you can see like this executive summary doesn't look good. Maybe that's because I'm in preview. Let me look at it in the folder to see if that's still messed up there too. Yeah, so some of that stuff is not pulling through properly when creating this report, but the purpose of this is to show you this as a use case. And I think it probably would have done better, honestly, if I used Opus instead of Sonnet. But when you're doing this yourself, definitely use this PDF creating capability. And I can iterate on this too and take screenshots of that PDF and say, hey, can you like fix this part because the text didn't come through properly, or can you move this here? The purpose of me showing you this is just to let you know, like, it can create PDFs and it can create them really well, but there are still some limitations to it. Another thing that you can do for performance marketing is have it build scripts for you, whether that's long form YouTube ads or for short form paid social ads. What you can have it do is write a script based on what it knows about the brand, and it can do research on your behalf to build that. You just got to give it the right format and context to be able to build these. So I'm going to have it build different ad scripts using the grab attention, kick the bruise, build the bridge, call to action framework. So I'm going to paste a prompt in here. Cool. I'd like you to write 10 meta ad video scripts for this client using the grab attention, kick the bruise, build the bridge, call to action framework, etc. Use the attached customer reviews. So I have a file that I downloaded from this brand's website of their Google reviews. I'm going to drop that in there. And then I'm going to have this build these scripts. So Claude finished doing this. And I think something that's cool, you can do this in Cowork, is follow along with Claude's progress. So you can see its thinking if you click into some of these things. You can also see on the right side its progress through the different tasks that it has within whatever you told it to do. And it's cool to just kind of watch that. But it made the scripts for me, broke down a rundown of the angles that it created, first timer, worth the drive, family trip, etc. But this is all baked in real knowledge of this client and real reviews of what people are actually saying. So it's important to have that context put into here. But what it did was created those scripts for me. And then what I could do, like I said before, is create a scheduled task that says every 10 days, can you build new scripts for me different than the ones that you made the last period or whatever, and then create an Asana task for me to review those. So that's another thing you could do. Or send me these scripts inside of our Slack channel with our creative strategists or our other marketing team so they can be aware of them, or our social team or whatever it is. So that's a really cool use case, and I definitely think you should use it. And then just to briefly preview this, just kind of interested into how Claude formatted this inside of the doc itself. Tends to do a really good job. Put together a review intelligence summary, put the scripts using the framework that I had outlined, as well as what the angle is specifically. These are pretty awesome, and I can obviously iterate on these inside of the chat. I could say, you know what, make this document the actual brand's colors, use these fonts, reorganize it this way, etc. So definitely use it for scripting ideas or coming up with advertising angles and strategies. I'm not going to cover every marketing use case in this video. I just want to give you the bones of what you can do and then apply that to your specific marketing functionality or vertical. For me, it's performance marketing, which is why I shared some of those use cases. But I also created this document for you guys for different use cases, for data analysis and understanding, for research and strategy, for creating content or writing copy, as well as for workflows and efficiencies. So there's a lot of example prompts and use cases detailed in here. I'm going to link this in the description below for you to just go grab it for free, make a copy of it, save it, share it with your marketing team, do whatever you need to do. I really hope you got some value out of this video and now have a better understanding about how to use Claude for advertising. Just make sure to build out those .md files so that you have all the necessary context inside of your projects. Go through that interview process, have Claude interview you to let it know what this project is for, what you're trying to accomplish, because the outputs will be significantly better. So test out some of the use cases that I outlined, start building some skills, get all your connectors connected, have those settings set up in the right way, start scheduling out tasks so that you can turn from a $100,000 marketer into a $1 million plus marketer basically overnight. If you like this video, you will love my video about the ChatGPT ads rollout. This is something that I'm continuing to update my audience on and something that's very top of mind. As we move into more of this agentic advertising era, it's definitely something I want you to be on top of and be aware of. So definitely check that video out. And if you are like me and you're part of the intersection of AI and advertising and how those two things come together, and you want to keep this stuff top of mind and learn about it every single day, every single week, I'd be blessed if you could subscribe below. I'd really appreciate that.